When you think about lost media or content that's gone missing over the years, what does it make you think about? To most people, it's probably something along the lines of an episode to a popular cartoon or a video game that was cancelled and never released. And while these are good examples of lost media, it's only one part of the iceberg. The other part is that of personal lost media, something that's become lost to a certain person or community that might not be as mainstream. Over the years, I've gotten lots of messages from viewers asking for help in trying to find a local show from their area or a plush toy someone had growing up that they can't seem to remember. And personally, I've tried to piece together some parts of my childhood, like what stores no longer exist in my area. However, what I never thought would happen in doing this was stumbling upon a local mystery so fascinating and important to the community that it's been an area of discussion for decades, but somehow, to this day, has never been solved. I couldn't turn down such a big piece of lost media right in my backyard, and thus became the search to try and put this decades-old mystery to rest. The search for the Liberty Tree. The setting for our search begins at the mall, and let me just say I love the mall. It's one of my favorite places to go, and there are quite a few of them in the surrounding towns. The ones I grew up with specifically were North Shore and Liberty Tree, both of which are owned and operate under the Simon Property Group. However, what's strange about this is that they're only about a mile apart from each other, so they've almost always been competing with each other for shoppers. North Shore is more of an upscale mall, with more clothing shops and higher prices, while Liberty Tree has more pop-up shops, with big box anchor stores like Target and Best Buy. While I do enjoy visiting both of these malls, I have to say Liberty Tree is my favorite. When I was a kid, I would spend way more time in this mall than anywhere else, and there's something about it living in North Shore's shadow that makes it feel special and down to earth. This caused me to research the mall and learn more about its history, leading me down an unexpected rabbit hole. The Liberty Tree Mall first opened in 1972 and received its first expansions in the 80s and 90s, which added anchor stores like Lechmere and Marshall's. One could argue it hasn't changed too much from then to now, with the general layout having stayed the same, and even many of the storefronts having never been renovated. Despite this, there are a lot of vacancies, and it seems like more shops close at a rate faster than new ones can take their place. I was actually worried they weren't going to recover after they were allowed to reopen, but thankfully the crowds have returned to normal, and you can find a good handful of people here even on the weekdays. But something you can't find here anymore is an important piece of not only mall history, but New England history as well. When I started doing research on the mall itself, this is something that would come up in almost every article that talked about the mall, or Facebook post that talked about the mall, and it was something I hadn't even heard much about until this point. If you had visited the Liberty Tree Mall back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, then you could have seen this for yourself. Right in the center of the mall stood a sculpture of a tree, a giant 20-foot tall piece that became a landmark for mall guests. This is the Liberty Tree sculpture. This old photo in particular even has it decorated for Christmas, making it a living aspect of the mall. Though curiously, it wasn't actually made for the mall, but rather adopted into it, as the origins of this piece date all the way back to 1964. It was sculpted by artist Albert Sermon for display on the New England Pavilion at the New York World's Fair before moving to Boston Common following the event. It sat here in this spot for the next 8 years, which is the era when this iconic and widely circulated photo was taken in 1969, until it was vandalized and then removed from the Common. From there, it was purchased, refurbished, and placed at the construction site of the Liberty Tree Mall, where it sat until the mall was completed. Unbelievably, a photo of this still exists, and it's one of the only few photos you can find documenting the tree. There really aren't a whole lot of visuals when it comes to the sculpture, but more importantly is the sculpture itself. What happened to it? Well, that question is shrouded in mystery, and finding concrete evidence about it is almost impossible. The rumor states that sometime between 1988 and 1992, the tree mysteriously disappeared from the mall and was never seen again. Apparently after its removal, the tree was even offered to local historical societies, but was so big they all turned it away. What's mind-blowing to me is how a 20-foot tree somehow disappeared overnight and there's no record of what happened to it, especially considering its connection to local history. However, the story of that is just the beginning, as I became obsessed with trying to locate this half-a-century-old sculpture and went down the trail of uncovering its details that no one had to this point. The search begins. And all searches have to start somewhere, so when it comes to finding a giant sculpture, there's really no starting point. But I decided to start small, and read through comments posted about the tree in various places online. I was thinking maybe someone had information that ended up getting overlooked throughout the years, but I came up pretty empty-handed. Most of the discussion I found was just memories about it or asking where it went, though this did open up some new leads. Moving past the blog posts and general articles about it, I ended up finding a lot of names connected to the tree itself, ranging from mall directors to relatives of Albert's sermon, so I started thinking that no one better than Albert's relatives or even Albert himself might know the whereabouts of the tree. Unfortunately, that question was answered quicker than I could ask it, as the Sermon family has been asked about it before. This newspaper article, taken from the Boston Globe in 2010, discusses the sculpture following the passing of Albert Sermon himself. It was a large part of his legacy, so the question was asked, though Sermon's son, named Barry, confirms the family has no idea what happened to it. This also makes me believe that even if Albert was still living, it's likely he wouldn't know either. Though that's not all this article has to offer, as it states the tree was removed in 1992, according to a mall spokesperson. That's the first time I've heard a specific date and not just a range of years, so I was curious about who this spokesperson could have been. I tried to find the author of the article, Gloria Negri, but from what I discovered, it appears as if she passed away too. It doesn't seem like starting small is going to find the answers I wanted, so it was time to move on to mall staff. There were a few names scattered around the articles I found, including a town archivist named Richard and a former mall manager named Matt. Richard was the origin of the claim that the historical societies rejected the tree due to its size, but confirms he doesn't know what happened to it. The mall manager Matt doesn't comment directly on the tree, but it can be implied that he doesn't have any information. This doesn't surprise me at all, since another article talks to current mall director Lauren, who has been with the mall for 15 years, and states the tree was gone long before she started. She claims they still get asked a lot of questions on Facebook about what happened to it, but doesn't have any information about it, because the management team and companies have changed hands so many times. A minor detail which actually stood out to me. I had never considered the possibility of a company or team having taken out the tree, but rather an individual, so maybe I was looking in the wrong place to begin with. In what could be considered a full circle maneuver, I went back to the original reason why I even started looking for the tree in the first place, reading about the history of the Liberty Tree Mall. If Lauren claims the management team has changed hands since the tree was in the mall, then it should be possible to try and find the management team responsible for mall operations in the late 80s and early 90s. In theory, someone relating to that era and position would have a definite answer for me. And the lead to find that person became as clear as day. The final line in the beginning paragraphs of the Wikipedia article states New England Development, the mall's original developer, still owns property within the mall space. I had to get in touch with someone from this company, as it was seeming more and more likely that they'd know something about the tree. I did a lot of reading on the company itself, and was able to confirm the modern day iteration of the company is the same one from back in the day. But who here would know anything about this? Through some lost media magic, I was able to search up people relating to this company, and came upon a resume page for someone named Greg. Currently, he has no relation to the mall or any manager positions, but his past work experience tells all. From 1989 to 1999, Greg worked as the operations manager and general manager of dozens of malls under New England Development, and one of the malls in this list is Liberty Tree. While I'm confident that in itself would be enough detail to make him a lead, taking a closer look at the wording reveals he managed all facets of building operations. If the theory that the tree sculpture was removed between 1988 and 1992 is true, then without a doubt Greg, who operated and managed the mall under the original developer, would have to have some kind of knowledge about it. Most likely, he would be able to supply vital details about when and why it was removed, though he might also have information about what happened to it. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I couldn't wait to send him a message and ask about this mystery, so I contacted him right away and waited a bit. Then waited some more, and waited even longer. Weeks had gone by and I hadn't heard anything back, so I messaged Lauren about my search and explained the whole mystery. She was pretty interested in helping me with the search, and stated she knew Greg, confirming she would reach out to him for me. I sat tight for a few months and waited for her to reply, before sending a follow-up message. Even more time went by, and unfortunately, I never heard back from her again. So I tried to find Greg on other websites where he could be reached, and sent him a follow-up message, since the original had been months old. Despite all this messaging, the most important rule relating to lost media is you never want to bother your contacts to the point of annoying them, and at this point, I felt like this was the most I could do. I haven't heard back from Lauren or Greg, and even though a year has gone by since having sent those original messages, I'm still confident Greg holds some information, if not all of it, in discovering what happened to the Liberty Tree sculpture. Hopefully, at the very least, the message of this search can reach them and spread through the community to uncover more information, since it's been nearly a decade from the last time this search gained attention. But as for the tree itself, I have my doubts that it's still in existence. If the historical societies rejected it for its size, I can't imagine anyone else having the room or desire to preserve it. I've even read old comments from people who thought the tree was ugly, so if no one in possession of it even liked it, then that's less of a reason why it would have been saved. The biggest mystery of this search, and something that's almost comical when you think about it, is how a giant 20-foot tree can disappear overnight without anyone knowing about it. Though I think with this new information about New England Development and Greg, the operations manager, we're that much closer to solving the mystery of the Liberty Tree Mall tree. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out some of my other game-related lost media videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.